At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello there, and welcome back to the official Deaf Crocodile Podcast. I am Ryan Verrill, here with my buddies, Mr. Dennis Bartok and Craig Rogers. Gentlemen, how are we today?
Hello, hello.
Same as always.
It's a sunny day up here in Santa Cruz, and as I said, my wife just forced me to go to the gym, so I'm pumped up. I'm ready. I'm ready to podcast.
I'm pumped for another reason. We got a special guest today. Want to welcome for the first time the designer behind many of the wonderful releases that you have put out, Mr. Brian Level. Brian, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, y'all.
For those that are not familiar with your work, could you share which of the Deaf Crocodile titles you have worked on so far?
I worked on Pied Piper twice, and then I also did the slipcase for visitors from, is it the Arcana Galaxy or just Arcana Galaxy?
It's the visitors from the Arcana Galaxy.
Oh, there it is. I had the V in the wrong spot.
That was the Kickstarter exclusive slip cover you did.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he failed to mention he also designed Romero. Our logo.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Romero, the crocodile himself.
And has done several variations, like Dead Crocodile, and the Deaf Crocodile with the cosmonaut helmet.
Yeah, I guess to tease, there's another one coming that's I just got the email about, guys. So looking forward to that next one too. So Romero's gotten a lot of action, a lot of costuming.
Yeah, we did promise people a custom pin for the membership levels. So we gotta make a new one. Yeah. And somebody just this morning was asking, he's like, "Oh, are you going to do a Dead Crocodile pin?" Because we've got the regular pin that's in our shop. I hadn't really thought of it, but then somebody else pointed out, was like, well, all of the variations would be cool pins, like the Deaf Crocodile pin, the Dead Crocodile pin. So maybe next time I have to reorder, I'll throw in a couple other designs and get all those pins.
Before we jump into another conversation with Brian on art, probably should just keep talking about merch for a moment. You just launched a Deaf Crocodile Pride shirt, and then you put up a hoodie that you used to have in the shop back up there again. And then I don't think, did we talk on here about the cat food bowl yet?
No, I don't think so. That was a 60-second when you on your show you were going through the new Vinegar Syndrome stuff, and they had a dog bowl, and I was like, oh hell no! How can we not have a cat bowl? Right. So I just hopped onto the merch site and slapped our logo on a pet bowl and put that on. That was literally in our store, available within like 2 minutes of you announcing the Vinegar Syndrome dog bowl.
Yeah, I literally saw you mention something, and then it was for sale available, and I brought it up in another tab, and I think I maybe finished like 2 or 3 sentences in between there.
Yeah. I mean, when all you need to do is put the logo on the product, it doesn't take long.
So, anyways, yeah, check out the new Pride shirt that went up there, and the hoodie and all the other stuff. I know Craig has shouted this out before, but genuinely some of the highest quality merch from any of these labels that I've ever gotten. I wear my Deaf Crocodile shirts all the time. Love the pins. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I keep telling people, and coming from me, it probably just sounds like, oh yeah, you're just trying to sell T-shirts. But honestly, it's the most comfortable T-shirt I have. I've got a closet full of them, and that's pretty much all I ever wear.
And Pride Month is we are big supporters of Pride Month festivities, and means a lot to us. So it really does come from the bottom of our hearts to celebrate that, especially in these dark times. I think it is really important to keep flying the pride flag.
Agreed. So, Brian, you have come on to help design a couple things. I would just love to hear about some of the process behind some of your design choices, because I know, especially being Kickstarter exclusives, they're mostly used to entice people to help invest essentially in a future project, and that's a big deal, is the art. And so, a lot of people have appreciated Craig being such a great choice and guide for art. So, how'd you get involved with Deaf Crocodile at the beginning?
Well, Craig and I have known each other for a very, very, very long time. And, he's always kind of been an advocate and had a good eye for artists, like myself not included, right? Like a lot of the, I've seen his art collection and, just spectacular eye. And so over the years, we've worked together in various capacities. And then when Deaf Crocodile came about, he reached out and we'd talked, and it was something that seemed like it was right up my alley. And obviously, he knows I'm a big fan of motion pictures. So it kind of seemed like a nice sort of overlap there for us. And then when it comes to doing physical media, I work in the comic book field in addition to being a tattooer. So for me, the physical is the real to me. So kind of thinking in terms of physical object and physical media and just something I can hold in my hand, the experience of being able to kind of open it, smell it, touch it, see it, all that stuff's real super meaningful to me, because I still work on paper a lot of the times. Not necessarily with color and stuff, but I still draw everything with pencils and inks and all that stuff on paper.
That's a lot. And in 2025, when a lot of people are not doing that, that's pretty damn cool.
Thanks. I don't ever try to disparage digital work, because it's certainly just as valid as what I do. And sometimes my wife would probably prefer I was more digital because there's just stacks of paper everywhere. But in a general sense, I'll still use digital for colors because I have flexibility to make edits and all that stuff a lot easier. But kind of getting involved with Deaf Crocodile was nice to kind of have somebody that kind of understood my art to begin with, knew my strengths, knew what I would be a good fit for, and designing Romero alongside of, Deaf Crocodile as a whole, and with Craig and Dennis's idea. It was pretty, honestly, super easy to kind of get my head around it. I think the hardest part was just making sure I could get it out of my head,
Yeah.
And then just being able to piece everything together. And when they came to me about Pied Piper, I was kind of over the moon, because aesthetically it was right up my alley. I'm a big horror fan and really enjoy, the aesthetics that Barta used in that picture. I think I'm pronouncing his name right, but I was really flattered, and I kind of dove right in on a lot of those images. Even the booklet, the stuff in the booklet to the disc, all that was such a joy for me to kind of dig into, because it was being able to pull all these little pieces from the work and then put it down on paper with whatever stylistic flourish I felt like I was comfortable giving.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that film, I knew who I needed to reach out to for the artwork. I was like, this Brian will vibe with this perfectly.
Oh, definitely. It was it was I watched it, and I immediately, because my kids they get into horror movies too, and I was like, well, this isn't a horror movie, but this is kind of up there. It's kind of has horror elements in it, I guess. And I kind of knew maybe some people would call it a horror movie. I guess maybe I don't. Maybe I'm being a little too restrictive, but I immediately kind of put it up on the big TV, so we all watched it together. It was just an awesome movie.
I can't remember. There was a I think it was last year or so. There was a horror film that came out, and the big bad guy in it, they just took the design of the Pied Piper from Barda's film. I saw the trailer and I was like, that's the Pied Piper. Like, what are you doing? Like the colors, the cloak, everything. I was like, holy cow, that's Barda's Pied Piper.
Well,
I can't remember the name of the film. It was about a year or so ago. And
I can't say enough good things about the logo that Brian created for us. Craig and I kind of had a general idea in mind once we settled on the title Deaf Crocodile and thought, it would be great to do a logo of a crocodile and maybe make him kind of a bit of an old-fashioned dandy with kind of an ear horn. And then Brian took that and it's so many ways, I think, are like the brand identity is now synonymous with that really wonderful logo. So Brian, just huge thank you for crystallizing and it was literally bringing that to life.
It was literally first draft. I mean, I don't know how many attempts he did before he handed something into us, but the first thing he showed us, we were like, no notes. Like, that's perfect.
That's great.
Well, and I'm super flattered, A, to be asked, and B, that you liked it. Like, there was a lot of there was a lot of hemming and hawing on my part on the front end, trying to get, whatever it was, like kind of locked in that felt right. Because for me, like, a lot of my process is extremely intuitive. Like, I don't really, I don't follow a whole lot of rules. Like, I just kind of I scribble until it feels right, and then it's just it's funny. Like, can I talk about like kind of comic booky art stuff for a minute? Like, I don't want to be boring, but like John Buscema is like a famous comic book artist.
You talking about art is not boring ever. So.
Well, thanks. Well, Buscema used to John Buscema would, when he would draw Conan or these big fantasy sequences or whatever, like you can see there's footage of him where he'll just go up to the board and just kind of draw some lines on it, and they're just kind of arbitrary and random, and then he'll take a step back and then he'll do a couple more and then step back. And so it's like he's waiting to see what the thing is telling him. And that's kind of like the best way to sum up my process is like I kind of have a vague idea. So like it might start with some circles or some ovals or whatever, but I'm just trying to find some shapes and rhythm and motion. And it was like, as soon as like when you said like that dandy sort of, because like my brain could fill in like, do a polo shirt style crocodile with a hat and an ear horn and make it kind of kitschy or, but it would have been kind of dead and flat and didn't have that like vitality. And so I was just kind of wanted it to have some rhythm and some excitement. So it was a lot of scribbling until the forms started to kind of come into shape in my mind. And then it was like, okay, we'll make that work. So by the time that, I got done with the sketch I sent y'all, it was a lot of like just kind of hemming and hawing with scribbles before that one started to show up.
Well, and now you've made multiple logo designs that a lot of people seem to love, and they're displayed on the releases themselves, on merch, on the playhead of some of these films. That's so cool to see the evolution of Romero throughout these releases as we go on.
Yeah, it couldn't be a bigger honor for me.
Yeah, I hope we can do some more fun logos that are little tweaks depending on what movie they're going on.
Well, and to be a little sentimental, like Craig and I are old friends, and it's really not, I've loved movies. Like I owe my entire career to the video store in my 1,000-person. I grew up in a town of 800 to 1,000 people, depending on the year. Like tiny town in the middle of Ohio. So like the video store and movies is like big for me. And then Craig's a good friend of mine, and so I'm kind of sentimental about the whole experience because it's like, I feel like I owe a lot to movies and to friends like Craig. So, and Dennis, like you've been exceedingly generous with your time with me and your kind words as well. So I appreciate it.
On that note, we've already brought up Pied Piper. Why don't we go through some of the stuff because we are seeing another release of Pied Piper this month. Dennis, it's been a minute to hear from you. Why don't you tell us about this incredible film?
So Pied Piper is an incredible stop-motion animated film from the great Czech animator and director Jiří Barda. And it is, of course, based on the famous sort of myth legend of the Pied Piper. His version is really dark and gothic, and it's influenced by, I think, medieval woodcuts, and has an incredible color palette to it of dark greens and browns. Sorry, that was the wind blowing the door shut here in our house. Either that or it was a ghost just skipping out. And we had first released it a couple of years ago, working with Barda and our great friend Irena Kovarova with the Comeback Company, who's been our partner on all of our Czech film releases so far, including Mysterious Castle and the Carpathians, and Adela Has Not Had Supper Yet, and The Golden Fern, and we have some other wonderful Czech movies coming up as well. And we were able to get in touch with Kratky Film Praha in Czechia, who are the rights holders for the Pied Piper, and sent us materials, and then Craig did an incredible restoration job on the film. And in fact, when we sent the restored file to Jerzy Barda, he said, "I am so happy. This is the first time it has looked like what I envisioned it, like it should look." He said, "I guess a previous release on DVD had looked really blue for some reason, and he was very unhappy with that, and he was really overjoyed with the work that Craig had done with his film." And Craig, I don't know, maybe you want to talk about some of the restoration work you did on the feature and or the short films, because that's the main feature of this new release, is that we have a second disc that contains 7 of Barda's amazing short films, which he is pretty much as famous for as for his feature work, like The Pied Piper.
Yeah, the short films are incredible, and I love the fact that the few people that in our little circle that have seen them all seem to have a different favorite. That's how good they are. like there's they're just people are gonna kind of flip. Like if you like The Pied Piper, these shorts are really incredible. As far as the restoration goes, it was fairly straightforward. It was just, a lot of dirt, a lot of scratches, the typical things that need to be cleaned up. But I'm very curious to hear people talk about them once they see them and see what they have to say and which ones are their favorites. Because there's definitely a standout for me, and it's a different one for Dennis, and it's a different one for Ryan.
So, Craig, now that you've teased us, Craig, what is your favorite of the shorts?
The Last Loot.
The Last Theft.
Yeah, The Last Theft.
Last Theft is great.
Yeah, it's just.
Did that one have kind of like, when you watched it? Was there like a Gilliam sort of like vibe a little bit with it? That I'm trying to like remember like how I felt with certain moments where it felt kind of Gilliam-y at times.
Yeah, a little bit. There's the fact that it's kind of a stop motion animation film, but it's all live action actors.
Right. It's a vampire story.
Right. Yeah, right. Then it's a vampire story, which I will watch. I've even watched the damn Twilight movies because I love vampire movies so much. It's done in a silent era style. They literally by hand colored tinted the film. The color's crazy. Yeah, everything I like about movies is in that one short, and I watched it and I was like, holy cow, this is so good.
Ryan, what is your favorite?
If I'm choosing from all of them, I adore The Vanishing World of Gloves, but if it's just the new one, then it's The Last Theft.
Vanishing World of Gloves is amazing. And why that one in particular?
I mean, for somebody that loves film and has really only taken like an actual passionate turn towards that over the last 10 to 15 years. It's crazy to see such a simplistic creation of some deeply complex stories that are emotionally told with gloves. And there's something about that just seems so validating for the art form in a way that I fell in love with immediately.
And Brian, do you have a favorite?
The Last Loot was, aesthetically, immediately grabbed me, but I think the one that really lingers with me a lot is the and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, the with the apartment building, where it was
the project. The project.
Yeah, the project was really kind of lingers in a fascinating way that I can't quite put my finger on. So I think about it probably more than all the other ones.
I think for me, it would be a toss-up between A Ballad About Greenwood and The Club of the Laid Off. And I think they're both just wonderful and mysterious. A Ballad About Greenwood is essentially this kind of surreal poem myth about stone and fire and earth and snow and air and these
it's really
strange occult creatures that are kind of half bird, half wood, and it's really an astonishing. There's something incredibly pagan,
and there's
metaphysical about it. It's if you're a fan of The Wicker Man or Blood on Satan's Claw or kind of folk horror movies, you would love A Ballad About Greenwood.
I liked it. When I was watching it, when I was working on it, I was like, "Oh, that's very cool." It wasn't until I listened to the conversation that Ryan edited into a visual essay, and when I heard them talking about it and kind of giving some context of what it was, what was going on, that I really, really appreciated it. I was like, oh, that's actually really friggin' brilliant.
And it must have been, and I interviewed Barda a second time because we had talked initially about the Pied Piper, and then for this new release, I interviewed him specifically about the shorts. And you, unless you think about it, it doesn't really occur to you, but almost all stop motion films are shot in a studio for very good reason, because the process is so laborious. You're literally shooting a frame and then you're moving and you're shooting a frame. Except A Ballad About Greenwood pretty much all takes place outdoors, and they're dealing with
incredible
snow and light and even to this day, and having talked to Barda, I don't know how they achieved it, because it must have been so cold and so difficult to do that kind of work outdoors.
The scene with the pyre, where instead of fire it was the blooming of the green leaves, but it looked like flames. I was like, that's friggin' genius.
Yeah, they do it. And then The Club of the Laid Off is just gorgeous, kind of ghostly surrealism about these mannequins who have a whole kind of animated life of their own in this abandoned apartment block, and kind of repeatedly mimic human interactions, getting up, going to work, trying to play a harp, dress in front of the mirror. And then a group of new kind of punk new wave mannequins are dumped into their environment, causing all sorts of conflict. And it's just amazing. It's the longest of the short films that we've included here. And even the Pied Piper is kind of a short feature. But taken all together, if you're a fan of Jan Schwankmeyer, who is kind of a contemporary of Barda's, or the work of the brothers Quay, I think you will absolutely adore Barta's short films as well as the Pied Piper.
Well, and lots of people fell in love with this before because this is a release that was able to be seen for a couple of years as it came out previously while you were partnered with OCN Distribution. And that brings us to another conversation, which has been a fun topic this week of dealing with all the people on the internet that don't understand that we're adding a ton of content to an already incredible film. Craig, I feel like you want the floor on this one, so I'll let you have it for a minute.
I'm just kind of flabbergasted, really. Like, I don't understand the thought process behind getting pissed off that we're releasing the Pied Piper in a deluxe edition.
Yeah.
Particularly when many of those same people that are complaining ask, well, why didn't you just release the shorts as a deluxe edition? I'm like, well, we just did, but it also has the Pied Piper on it. So I don't understand. Like, I can't wrap my head around that kind of. I don't even want to call it logic because it's illogical. Like, you're getting all of the shorts in a deluxe edition, and it also includes the Pied Piper. I'm like,
well, and we were out of print on the Pied Piper,
right.
so we knew we had to reprint
it anyway.
Pied Piper. So had we actually just reprinted it and then done a second disc, if you wanted to get the Pied Piper and the short, you'd be paying twice as much. So, and we specifically priced this 2-disc edition at like literally, I think it's like $3 more than our regular single disc releases. So we wanted to make it very affordable. And we really are not like out there to try and force people to double dip. Although I say this as somebody who I think had John Carpenter's The Thing on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I have the 4K UHD version of it yet or not. But
well, I think
I'm sure all of us have bought multiple versions of films we love over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
And if I may, as a collector of boutique Blu-rays, as they say, I've multiple bought the same shit on a bunch of occasions by mistake. So it's like crazy to me, like that you'd be mad if you intentionally buy something with more. Like I bought 8.5 twice. I think I bought Blue Velvet twice, like the same edition. So like it's crazy to like get big mad when you're getting more stuff.
And also, like I said, if we just called this release Yuri Barta Shorts, and the second disc included the Pied Piper disc that we had before, no one would be complaining.
Well, and there's a ton of people
exact content,
and there's a ton of people out there who have not yet had a chance to see the Pied Piper, and were asking us, "Wow, are you ever going to reprint this? You're going to reprint this?" So we did actually put a lot of thought into this, and we thought, okay, well, the best way would be to do this as a deluxe 2-disc. Right. Edition with a lot more content and a whole other interview with Barta.
And we've reprinted several of the OCN era titles that we couldn't get more material, so it didn't make sense to put out a deluxe edition if it was just going to be the same content as before. Yeah. That I could see people being upset. It's like, it's the same thing you released before. You just put it in a box. It's like, so we didn't do that.
Especially if it was part of the subscription or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've got several more titles that will be getting reprinted that aren't going to get a deluxe edition like this because there's just nothing more we can add to them. That said, there are a handful of others that we will be doing this again, where it was released under Vinegar Syndrome, 2+ years ago, but we've got enough access to enough new material that we can put out a deluxe edition and keep it, kind of in line with the releases we do now that have, a ton of content, a nice thick book in the deluxe edition, limited edition. It makes sense to me, like, if you're collecting all of the Deaf Crocodile stuff, I personally think our post OCN deluxe editions are light years better than what we were putting out before. Like, and if it's one of your favorite films that we did put out through Vinegar Syndrome, I would want that. I would already want that in a deluxe edition with all the extras.
And speaking, go ahead.
I mean, I just feel like I'm surprised, people aren't complaining. It's like, well, why didn't you do a fancy edition of Prague Nights? It's like, well, because there was nothing else we could add to it. Like, it didn't. That would be just asking people to double dip and pay extra for packaging, and we don't do that.
This is such an odd topic to me. I mean, one of the things that we haven't pointed out, which we probably should, is the new disc for the Pied Piper is literally longer in content.
Oh yeah, there's more content on disc 2. Yeah, there's more content on disc 2 than there was the original disc 1. Like, I mean, we're literally calling it the Pied Piper and Yuri Barta shorts because the Pied Piper is the bigger draw. This is in fact a Yuri Barta shorts release with the Pied Piper as the bonus material. Like,
well, but Craig, should we mention? I guess this is going to come out when pre-sales begin, right?
Yes.
So, should we mention the very super duper extra limited?
Like we've been trying to. I don't know how long we can sustain. Keep finding stuff to have as members only treats, but being a Romero's Club member, as Amex says, has its privileges.
We are going to have an incredibly limited quantity of this amazing coffee table book called Jerzy Barta Waiting for Golem, that is this gorgeous illustrated volume about Barta's work, including all of the short films with copious text and interviews with Barta. It was published by the University of West Bohemia. I think it's out of print now, but through
we looked
Barta
everywhere
himself.
We couldn't. So we asked Jerzy if there was any way he could get his hands on some.
So we're going to have about a dozen copies of this autographed by Jerzy Barta himself that he was able to somehow pry out of the publishing vaults at the University of West Bohemia, and we're going to have them up on the Deaf Crocodile website very soon, and for a very short period, because there's literally
12,
only about a dozen copies of this
great
in the country. And so if you are like a really hardcore Jerzy Barta fan, this is an amazing volume. Barta was good enough to send us a copy of the book, and I was gobsmacked at how gorgeous it is. So, and
it's all in English, I think. Like, I was surprised when I looked through it. It's
in English. It's got gorgeous frame enlargements and stills. I'm guessing a lot of these were actually shot during production, and it also talks about his long in development stop motion feature based on The Legend of the Golem, which is a project that he is still working on to this day and hoping to start shooting in the very near future. So
fingers crossed.
So keep your eyes peeled.
Seeing anything new from him
for our website,
very exciting.
When we
we'll be adding that, and I'm working on trying to get other cool members only, because there's not enough. So some more autographed items and stuff we'll be adding in. So.
Well, and in addition, I think Craig mentioned we have a wonderful new visual essay about the short films that's on the second disc, and it was a a conversation between Irena Kovarova of Comeback Company, Czech film expert for many, many years, who's our partner on the release of this and the other Czech titles we've put out, along with film historian Peter Hames, who also contributed to the Pied Piper and is just incredible scholar. And then our very own Ryan Verrill was able to cut it together, their amazing conversation, sort of insights into Barda's work as a short filmmaker with clips from the various shorts that are being discussed. So it's this amazing visual overview of the short films. Yeah,
they go one by one through each of the shorts and talk about them, and then there's clips from the short they're talking about it. It's really, really insightful. I really, really enjoyed it.
And then on the original on the first disc, as we had on our original release, there's a wonderful behind the scenes documentary called The Chronicle of the Pied Piper that was shot during the making of the film, where you get to see a lot of the process that went into it, the painstaking stop motion work, and that's really fascinating as well. So there's a ton of really wonderful
it's kind of incredible. Like in that doc, like you can see like a lot of the buildings and sets were just like styrofoam, and he literally just heats up a knife on like a burner until it's hot, and then just slices through the styrofoam to shape it the way he wants it. It's that's like, you know, whenever we talk about animation, I'm always saying how much I like working on restoring it, because you can see how handmade it is, and stop motion seems to even take that to like another whole level of like how incredibly handmade it is.
It's pretty great. And the conversation, one of the things I really wanted to point out, the context behind it is important, but you can just hear through the things that Peter and Irena are saying back to each other just how important it is. It's something that is meaningful to them, something that they've spent years studying and appreciating, and being able to pass on that information for all of us is an incredible, incredible thing.
Yeah, these docs and visual essays and stuff that we get and add to the discs, they make me appreciate the films so much more. Like the Cathedral of the New Emotions, like it's a little beyond what I'm usually comfortable or enjoy watching. And then I watched the doc that was, you know, that we got that went with the disc, and explained, you know, where he was coming from and what he did and his history, and watching the doc and then watching the film, I was like, oh, I totally appreciate this on a whole nother level that I didn't before. So yeah, the bonus features aren't there just to pad the release and make people think they're getting their money's worth. It's really good content.
I agree. And then we got a booklet, of course, that's brand new for this. And I guess I shouldn't even say booklet. This is one of the standard deluxe edition style books that we do that is really great. You've got writing with the one and only Walt Cha as usual. And who else we got in this one, Craig?
Looks like Jonathan Owen.
Yes, Jonathan Owen, who's contributed to some of our releases in the past. He's a wonderful Czech film expert who Irena brought on board, and he's written a wonderful kind of essay about Barda's work and the shorts. And then we are also reprinting the essay that Irena Kovarova herself wrote about the Pied Piper, which was in our original release. So there's a lot of amazing information and background there in the booklet as well. So
hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at chumbacasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
And then, Brian, you've designed some stuff for the Pied Piper. What led to some of the design choices for this one for you?
Working on a box was very exciting for me because, like, I've made a lot of, sort of like weird little three-dimensional objects and stuff. But I've never done it formally, like as a finished product. So when they kind of asked me to do the box, it was really exciting. And I wanted the whole thing to kind of, instead of it feel like an assembly of images, I wanted it to feel like a whole object. So like playing with the rats and stuff, moving around the box kind of in their own way. Like I wanted like all the planes of the box to feel like they mattered. You know what I mean? And then kind of the double archway, there's a lot of these sort of like these gothy archways, in the Pied Piper. There's some storytelling on the box. Like I'm a comic book guy, so like there's sequence, involved. And then kind of going through all the individual shorts. Like I was kind of working really hard to kind of keep find out what really stuck with me visually and try to make some lists and, all that. So when it came down to like putting the design together, it was kind of like, okay, I've got these archways, I've got these rats, I've got all these other pieces. Like, how in the world is this going to fit together, without it, feeling, I guess, crowded in some, or just like a collage of some sort. So it was a real challenge that I, to be honest, had a great time with the whole time. So there's a lot of, it felt like a game, like you were kind of putting a puzzle together in a lot of ways. Nice. So it was a real blast. And then obviously revisiting that crazy sculpted face of the Piper was so cool to be able to do that large and, with that hood, like mimicking the arches. It was great.
Yeah, I can't tell which of the artworks you did I'd like better. I love them both equally. The one for the first release of just the Pied Piper and this new one, which is not so much Easter eggs, but it does incorporate symbols or images from the shorts, as well as the Piper himself, who was the sort of most iconic image, I think, from many of Bardet's films.
Yeah, there were, I guess, if you know how the shorts play out, there's some spoilers there, I guess. But like, it was really fun for me to kind of just be like, what are the things that, really, really grabbed me visually? So it was a nice kind of little game to play.
And I love that the coloring you did for the new slipcase box pairs perfectly with the original wrap art that you did for the disc that's inside. Like it all feels like one very cohesive package, and it looks amazing.
Thank you. That was kind of that was like a little back and forth in my head where I was like, should this feel new? Should this feel like a continuation or extension? Like, and there was a little bit of like, well, back to the hemming and hawing that I do on the front end. I try to think more than I draw, not literally because it takes forever to draw anything, but like you feel like you're spending a lot of time thinking about it and bringing back that color scheme and all that stuff from the original. I really enjoyed the way that looked, and I was really glad y'all kind of let it go the way that it went. And so it was nice to bring that back. And, I really like the back. Like, I feel like it'll really sing like on both the front and the back. I'm just proud of the work.
I can't wait to just have it in my hands, and it's going to look amazing. I'm very excited for this one to birth into the world.
Yeah. I'm excited to get it in the old mailbox. I'll say that.
Yeah. Like the Treasures of Soviet Animation Volume 1, seeing the artwork on the computer, I was like, oh wow, that's really impressive. And then printed as an actual, box in my hand, like it looked even better. It just like it really worked as the package design. It was such a good job. And likewise, this new Pied Piper slipcase, I think, is one of the best designed ones we've had, and we've had some pretty killer ones.
Well, thank you. The finish that you guys picked for the box is really great too. I think it really, like, it doesn't, like, the, I have some where it's like a high gloss or whatever, and it's kind of like, but like there's something about the finish, that satin finish on your guys' boxes that I really love.
Yeah, they when we first started, it gave me the option, and I don't like really shiny things, so
you'd be a terrible ferret.
Well, this is just the first of 2 titles coming out this month. We also have another one that I can be honest, this is one that I've been waiting for to be able to have on disc for a long time because I loved this movie. The Devil's Bride. What can people expect to see in The Devil's Bride?
The Devil's Bride is this really mind-blowing 1970s Lithuanian rock opera. Directed by Arūnas Zebriūnas, who was a very acclaimed and prolific Lithuanian director in the 60s, 70s, and onwards. It may be the only rock opera in Lithuanian cinema. I thought there were others, but having now talked to several film critics and experts, and I don't know if there are any others. Certainly no others like this. It's sort of a combination of Ken Russell's Tommy, Jesus Christ Superstar, Fiddler on the Roof, and then early 70s folk horror movies like The Wicker Man and Blood on Satan's Claw and others, because it includes all of this sort of pagan folklore and devilish imagery. It's adapted from a famous Lithuanian novel called Whitehorn's Windmill. And it's sort of a Devil and Daniel Webster type story about this impish devil, not the devil, but kind of one of the lesser devils, who's booted out of heaven and lands in the frog pond of this miller and basically offers him, like the monkey's paw, like you're gonna offer, or bedazzled, I'm gonna offer you a bargain, and it's to marry his beloved, but he gets to keep their daughter, their firstborn child, who in the film is both the mother and the daughter are played by the same actress, and all sorts of complications ensue, and the entire narrative, the entire plot of the film is sung. So it's a sung-through musical like The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. There is no spoken dialogue. So it literally goes from one amazing, musical sequence and song to another, and is beautifully shot by a cinematographer named Algimantas Makis. So the cinematography is so crystalline and so pure. And the opening of the film in particular, it's kind of hard not to mention. It opens with this incredible sequence that was shot high in, I think, the Carpathian Mountains, of this sort of long-haired flower child god and all of his angels, and there's a long table for a banquet, and then it descends into this kind of mad pansexual orgy dance number that's sort of like if you set A Clockwork Orange like to music, it kind of be this dance sequence. It is astonishing. It's one of the most incredible musical sequences I've ever seen in any movie. And after that, your jaw is just on the floor. And it's such a wonderful and creative and surreal and utterly unique film. It is often compared to Jesus Christ Superstar because they both have a kind of religious, spiritual theme. Kind because they're both rock operas. You've got kind of wailing guitars, you've got that sort of 1970s feel, but I think The Devil's Bride really sort of stands apart and on its own as this amazing, unique cinematic experience. It is beloved in Lithuania, but to date has not been well known outside of the home country. And in fact, when I went to the Lithuanian Film Center, who did a beautiful restoration, our partner on this release, and said, "Hey, do you have rights and materials on The Devil's Bride? We'd love to release it in the U.S." And they said, "Yes, we do, but we have to ask you, how did you hear about this movie?" We didn't think anybody outside of Lithuania knows about The Devil's Bride. And in fact, it was actually recommended to us by one of our Deaf Crocodile fans and admirers, which is why I say keep sending in suggestions, because a lot of the films that we wind up tracking down and releasing are from suggestions and recommendations from people out there, like those of you listening to this, who will send us emails with just lists of amazing film titles to look into, and The Devil's Bride is one of them. So we're super excited that we're able to put it out. We got access to some beautiful production artwork, original sketches for the film, as well as production stills that were shot behind the scenes. And then we were really fortunate to get in touch with Monica Edgar, who is the daughter of Arunas Zebrionis, the director of The Devil's Bride. And she gave a wonderful interview about her father's career and her family life growing up. He directed a number of other amazing films, like The Girl and the Echo and The Beauty, two really gorgeous black and white films he made. He was kind of famous early on for making films about children and kind of the beauties and the heartbreaks of childhood. And those two films in particular won a number of awards and are really incredible. The Girl and the Echo and The Beauty. And they also don't pull any punches about how kind of brutal and cruel kids can be to each other. But The Devil's Bride was really a kind of a turning point and a real shift for him, as it was for Lithuanian cinema in general. They like I said, there wasn't like a whole subgenre of amazing rock operas or musicals coming out of Lithuania at this period. So this movie is really unique. It's really well known in Lithuania. And Monica actually acted. She was a child actor, and she appeared in films directed by her father and some other movies. And she also, in addition to giving a wonderful interview, gave us access to these incredible photos from her family's archive of her father as a young man. He had studied architecture initially. He studied film at Mosfilm in the 1950s before he became a kind of a trainee director, and then got to direct himself in Lithuania starting, I think, in the early 1960s. So in the booklet contains all these wonderful photos that Monica Edgar gave us access to. So we were really excited when she sent us, digital copies of those photos. We said, oh my God. So we found a way to put as many of them into the booklet as possible. So
yeah. That's so cool. This movie's great. Craig, any thoughts you want to share on this one specifically?
Well, I'll mention the slipcase art. An artist I just kind of discovered, I think it was on Instagram, saw some of her work and started following her, thinking maybe we'll have a project that I'll reach out to her for, and this one came up, and I was like, I think she might be the right fit. So I messaged her and just said, hey, would you be interested in doing a cover for us? And she said, yeah, thankfully. And she created a beautiful painting for the box art. So yeah, Hannah Vandergreen. She's on Instagram. You should check her out. Follow her stuff. It's really great. And she produced a beautiful painting that we're using for the slipcase art.
I should also mention there's an amazing audio commentary by film historian Michael Brook, who's an expert in European and especially Eastern European cinema. And he did an amazingly well-researched commentary. There's a new interview we did with Ieva Sukeda, who is a Lithuanian film critic and film programmer, who talks about the kind of, rich history of Lithuanian cinema, and in particular, Zebra Eunice's work and kind of how The Devil's Bride fits into it. And then, wait, there's more. We have a visual essay by none other than Ryan Verrill and his great friend and colleague, Dr. Will Dotson.
Yeah, that was this is one of the ones that I'm most proud of, I think. Just something about the story lends itself to telling other stories within it. The visuals are incredible. The story that you're hearing within all of the dialogue and the classic fairy tale like delivery is just simple and yet complex when you break everything down. And this movie's just gorgeous. I mean, you enter into this world, and from frame one, you are sucked into just the most beautiful scenery, and then the music starts, and you're like, well, I'm not getting up for the next 90 minutes or whatever. And yeah, this is probably one of my favorite 2 or 3 discoveries from the last year and a half, at least.
Well, and the booklet, besides having a wealth of amazing photos and production artwork, has 2 great essays, one by Walter Shaw from Film Freak Central, who contributes to all our releases, and then another amazing essay by Alexandra Heller-Nicholas, who's a film critic and historian whose work we really love. And she contributed a wonderful essay to this one. So yeah, we're just super excited that we're able to work with the Lithuanian Film Center, with Monica Edgar, the director's daughter, to put out such a surreal and unique and beautiful and kind of otherworldly film. There's images in there that are so strange and haunting, like the carriage that is led into the pond, or these legions of female kind of devils on horseback, or and it also shows you what an incredible wealth of amazing artistry in cinema there is to be discovered around the world. And this is just one film directed by Aruna Zebriunas, who had a long, rich, and wonderful career as a director. So it's kind of like the more you discover, the more you realize remains to be discovered. And it really is. We really are just scratching the surface, because there is so much more in Lithuanian cinema and kind of world cinema out there waiting to be appreciated. So,
yeah, and like Dennis had mentioned, love getting those lists from people, because as Ryan will completely understand, is like, no matter how unknown a film might be, it's someone's favorite.
This is true. Absolutely true. Brian, since you've not been talking on this one, who are some of your favorite artists that inspire you?
Well, geez, like there's a lot of comic book artists and some painters, but like my primary sort of go-to is like John Romita Jr. He's a comic book artist. He's one of my all-time favorites. I've learned so much about solidity and volume and sort of energy from him. My favorite cartoonist of all time is still alive. His name is Dave Lapham. He's famous for like Romita's like a superhero guy, but Lapham is like a crime sort of cartoonist known for Stray Bullets and stuff like that. And then like Gustave Moreau and like Odilon Radon, a lot of those symbolist guys. Big fan of, and then certain art movements like the symbolist movement I really like. Big fan of like orthodox iconography, oddly enough. I love this sort of like flattened, surreal sort of like look of a lot of that stuff. So I'm kind of all over the board. I mean, we're talking about like visual art that's not movies, or are we talking movies too? Because I feel like that, like he mentioned Ken Russell earlier with this new Devil's Bride, and I'm like, well, I'm in, in terms of artists is concerned. Like I love Ken Russell. I love David Lynch. I like what Greenaway does a lot. I like this sort of like oddball visual. I guess it's not odd as much as it is unusual for the mainstream, but I think there's some great beauty in cinema in terms of visuals. I was unaware of Alexander Petrushko until Deaf Crocodile, and I fell in love with what sort of he and his crews make is really, really awe-inspiring. Michael Powell's a big guy for me too. Like I love Michael Powell. I don't know. I'm kind of all over the board, really. Like I got really mainstream kind of like loser like energy sometimes with my artists. Like I like like some 90s over the top superhero stuff, and then I like a little bit weirder. Like I like Al Columbia. If anyone listening is into alternative comics, like Al Columbia, I'm a big fan of. So yeah, I'm all over the board, man.
On that note, we haven't talked in a while about stuff that we've all been consuming since we're all voracious consumers of all of this stuff. Dennis, you watched any good films lately you want to share with the world?
Oh, wow. I just finished the Dr. Mabuse set, which I thought was really wonderful.
The Fritz Lang thing?
Well, he directed the first three, and then Masters of Cinema just put out a boxed set of the latter day Mabuse films, which Gert Frobe, who is most famous for playing Goldfinger in the Bond film, co-stars in a lot of them, and Lang had kind of so this last cycle of Mabuse films are they kind of track more with the 60s super spy thriller vein, and you could definitely see the influence of kind of Bond and spy movies in some of them. And Fritz Lang directed the first in this sort of latter day cycle, The Thousand Eyes of Dr. Mabuse, which was actually the last film that he directed. And then they had other filmmakers who came in. But
oh boy, there's a lot of them. I didn't realize how many there were. Holy smokes.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. And I kept putting on another and another. And Maria, my wife, was like, "Are you watching the same film?" And I was like, "No, it kind of looks like it. It's black and white, and Gert Frobe is running around." I was like, "No, it's a different film." And those I just thought was really entertaining. Oh my gosh, let me see. I have to look at the stacks and stacks of physical media. I actually caught up with a couple of the films in the Severin Danza Macabre set, Italian Gothic, and the first two, The Monster at the Opera, or Of the Opera, is really, really bonkers. It is basically a group of young Italian kind of bohemian artists, dancers, singers, like want to put on a show, which is sort of like kind of a cabaret of different dance routines, some of which are almost like Little Abner. And it's in this sort of haunted old theater, and they awaken a vampire who then manages to terrorize the dance company. And it is one of those bonkers mashups of kind of different elements that the longer it goes on, the stranger it gets. And that's just really wonderful. So I love Italian horror filmmaking, and that one was really entertaining.
Excellent. Brian, you watched anything recently you want to rave about?
It's I've been kind of going back through like revisiting some stuff I haven't seen in a long time, so not really anything particularly new. Like I've been revisiting some of Robert Rodriguez's older material to see if it still lands with me, and I kind of was shocked at how much I liked The Faculty. Like I just rewatched The Faculty, and I was like, man, I kind of love this movie. This is crazy. And like some of that old Miramax Dimension, like I grew up with a lot of that stuff in the video store. And I always remember it fondly, but I couldn't remember if I actually still liked it. And it's fascinating how much of it still hits where and what doesn't. So like I had just rewatched Reservoir Dogs, which is kind of like such a basic like movie, but I was like, God damn, this movie goes hard as hell. Like I really like it. So I was kind of doing that. And then in terms of like, I like to kind of hit older stuff, but I've kind of taken a little bit of a break. Like I rewatched Night of the Demon again. The Jacques. What is it? Tournier? Is that how you say his name? Like that
Tourneau. I don't know.
Yeah, like I love that movie.
I think I always said it Jacques Tourneau, but I don't know if that's correct.
I love that movie. I love how like I hear there was like a lot of like turmoil because the producer wanted more special effects and he wanted less or something like that. But I kind of love how outrageous the effects work is in it. Like it's just kind of over the top. I love that. I rewatched that again. So I've been kind of in a revisit mode as opposed to like new stuff. I think largely because I haven't had a lot of time to like give new stuff my attention.
Not too bad.
I find that to be the case a lot of times. Is I'll either just end up watching something on TV or rewatching something while I'm doing something else because I don't have. If it's something I've never seen before, I want to give it my undivided, dedicated attention, and I've not been able to carve out, 2 hours to do that for a while. The last couple things I saw that were new to me was the Day of the Jackal. The 1973 movie, because I watched
it's great
because I watched the new series on Peacock and really enjoyed it, and wanted to say, where did this come from? And the movie's terrific. By today's standards, it's a little slow, but it's so well done that I didn't mind at all. If you like the new series, you should watch the film, and vice versa. If you like the film, you'll probably dig the new series. And the other one that was on my list for a long time, one of those like, how have I not seen this? But considering that we just put out Inflatable Sex Doll of the Wasteland, I had to watch Branded to Kill, and it was not at all what I was expecting. It's way weirder than I was expecting. I thought it was going to be more of a straightforward film, and the first half of it in particular, I was like, this is straight out of Inflatable Sex Doll. Like they're very, very similar. Not in story, but in the way the story is told, and the so yeah, it's I wish Inflatable Sex Doll had a easier to sell title like Branded to Kill, because the two films are very, very, like, if you like one, you'll love the other. Like,
they really are companion.
Yeah, like it's absolutely like a double feature. Like you should watch both together.
Well, and of course, the connection is Atsushi Yamatoya, who wrote and directed Inflatable Sex Doll of the Wastelands, co-wrote Branded to Kill with Seijun Suzuki, and they were good friends and collaborated. Suzuki was astonishing, one of the greatest Japanese filmmakers, one of the most subversive ever. But definitely those two films really are companion pieces.
Did Suzuki do that woman that got stuck in that guy's basement, the artist? What was that movie? Blind Beast? Was that him?
Oh, no. That's Yasuzo Masumura, who was also incredibly subversive. That is one of my favorite really effed up Japanese genre films of that period. We screened it a number of years ago at the American Cinematheque when I was programming there with my friend Chris D of the Flesh Eaters, who's a Japanese genre film expert, and Blind Beast was one of his favorite films. And we did a series that started in the late 90s called Outlaw Masters of Modern Japanese Filmmaking, that opened with Battles Without Honor and Humanity, and we brought in Kinji Fukusaku for a screening. Nice. And we had Kihachi Akamoto there for Sword of Doom, and but I think Blind Beast was one of the films we screened in the very first year because it sort of represented everything that was strange, surreal, and incredibly wonderfully warped about Japanese genre filmmaking. And Masamura, oh my God, Black Test Car, and he did so many amazing Giants and Toys. Now, Masamura is another one of the great subversive giants of Japanese genre films.
Yeah, I was just looking at other stuff that Seijin Suzuki had done, and I'm looking at Lupin the Third, The Legend of the Gold of Babylon, and I love Lupin the Third stuff, and I was like, wow, like that. I would not have thought that would be in his list of directing credits.
Well, and Miyazaki, you wouldn't have thought that there's a connection, 1 degree of separation between Seijin Suzuki and Hayao Miyazaki. But Miyazaki directed Castle of Cagliostro.
Yeah, I need
one of his earliest films. Amazing Lupin adventure.
Yeah, the Lupin films are so fun.
Yeah. We are hard at work trying to bring more Japanese animated films out with Deaf Crocodile, both new and old. We'll hopefully have some great stuff.
We can see the finish line on 2 films. It's right there. We're like, we're so close.
We do have more amazing Soviet cinema coming out, including another Alexander Petrushko film, our 5th, which we're super excited about because we've been sort of patiently, waiting and working with Moss Films. So 2026, we'll see a 5th Petrushko film from Deaf Crocodile, which is great. Lots of super cool stuff coming out. The second half of this year, I mean, the first half has been incredibly packed, but the second half is kind of, and Craig and I are working on it day to day, and even then we step back and go, oh my God, we've got some really wild stuff. Just the fact that we're putting out several box sets in a row with multiple films by amazing filmmakers that are so strange and surreal and wonderful is wonderful.
It's going to be a busy year. I'm already tired.
And it's only June 3rd. Summer hasn't even begun.
The next 6 months for sure are going to be the biggest we've had yet. And looking further down the calendar, 2026 is already stacking up to make this 6 month period look like nothing. So
I know. Well, and we have we've just put out our first release of Soviet animation with Soyuz Malt Film, and we have 2 more coming out. Oh my God, Volume 2 with Lev Atamanov's The Snow Queen, The Scarlet Flower, and The Key. Utterly astonishing. And then at the end of the year will be the Yuri Norstein collection with Hedgehog and the Fog and The Tale of Tales. It will be a near complete collection of his short films, along with a featured documentary about The Overcoat, which is this animated feature he has been working on for nearly 40 years and not completed yet. But it will basically be as many of his short films. I think all of the short films that he directed or co-directed independently. There's one that he did for a omnibus film with a number of other filmmakers, a very short segment that we're not including. But everything that he put out individually or co-directed is going to be included on this, including several that I think are going to be brand new to home video that have never, I don't think they've ever come out on physical media before, certainly not Blu-ray that we know of. So,
Well, on that note, if the next 6 months sounds exciting to you, you could check out the memberships at deafcrocodile.com. You can secure some of those at the cheapest prices available. Get some store credit at a steep discount. Those are available in perpetuity. Craig, anything I'm missing? Anything you want to bring up?
I'm sure I'll think of something once you stop recording.
Perfect. I will then edit nothing back in. Brian, thanks for hanging out with us for the last hour and a half. You are incredible,
my
and
pleasure.
I can't wait to see more of your work out there.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Like I told you when I called you and asked you if you could do this, I felt like a fool that I didn't call you sooner. It's like I said, we're like, we pull out the binoculars and we're like, who can we get? And we're like looking and like, some very obvious people standing right next to us. We're like, oh yeah, like Brian, obviously.
Yeah, well, I was glad to be asked, so I appreciate it.
Yeah,
we just finished our next 6-month subscription period, and I just want to send a huge shout out and thank you to everyone who's subscribed. It is hugely important. It really is a major reason why we're able to keep doing what we do. So I just want to thank all of the subscribers, many of them returning from, the past 6 months or 12 months. So thank you to everyone who's subscribed.
And if you want more direct insight from Craig and Dennis, you could become a member and get access to the Discord. Lots of great conversations happening there already with this just burgeoning community. They just sprung up out of nowhere through everybody that also loves Deaf Crocodile. So, yeah, thank you, everybody, for the support. Craig, Dennis, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Brian, both for all of your creative contributions to what we're doing. You both have made enormous contributions. Ryan and Will, who's not with us, but we love Will's work so much.
Rest in peace, Will.
Wow. Will's gonna hear this and go, what?
Will's my guest on Thursday on my show, so come check that out. We'll see y'all next time. Here's to an onward and upward month. Here we go.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 Podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 Podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 Podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description.
Having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather, now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No